Hi and welcome. I'm Adrian Head, the music director and founder of the Ady Ensemble here in Brisbane, Queensland. And I'm joined by Dr. Bonshek, the composer. And we're here to talk about the launch of an album that her Dreams of the Earth is included on, an album called ReLive, live works for Orchestra and Large Ensemble. Welcome, Karina. Lovely to have you here. For those of you who have joined us for the previous chat will know that we spoke about the background, how Karina and I met and her work leading up to the performance of Song to the Earth, which was performed at the Bleach Festival. And that led us up to about, when was the performance at the Bleach Festival, Karina? It was about March or May?
April, yeah.
April 2018?
That's right.
So we had discussions about you taking the material that you'd had put together for Song to the Earth, which was an outdoor work, and putting it in something that I think actually you used the word transportable at one point there.
Yeah, I think it was such a mammoth effort to do the big outdoor work. I mean, it ended up being a 90-minute performance. So the scope for having that performed again seemed a little challenging. So we have managed it in other forms and are still managing it. But yeah, having a concert platform version seemed like a really smart thing to do, and also I actually was quite a groundbreaking piece for me in terms of my evolution of my writing style. So I kind of wanted to capture a couple of elements out of that, and the arrangement that I did for Ady Ensemble takes kind of two key moments in the first movement, these beautiful swelling undulating chords out of which a melody grows, and then that melody takes over and it becomes a kind of ecstatic dance. And the idea really around that, I mean, it is a kind of communing with nature sort of piece. I think we as a society are very aware now that we're living in a time of climate change, climate crisis, and having a heart connection with nature and caring for nature and singing up nature and dancing with nature and being attuned to nature is very important. And so I feel like there's a kind of a bittersweet sort of sadness, but also a beauty and a joy in the music that I chose to arrange for Ady that I hope touches people's hearts.
Yeah, I think, and we'll talk about the reaction of the performers that made up the Ady Ensemble for the recording later on in this discussion. But certainly, as we said before in the previous chat, and if you haven't watched the previous chat that Karina and I have had, please go back and find it, and it'll give you more details about Song to the Earth. But certainly after we'd, and sorry, I should say, I didn't realise that it was such I remember Song to the Earth being as you said, it's a 90-minute work, and to me, those dimensions are massive, far longer than some symphonies go for. And I think I often wondered how much, whether it was where in your output that work sat, and when you've said now that it was a watershed moment, that's it means a lot to me to hear you say that, and it's great to, yeah, I'm really pleased that was such a great moment, and certainly the performances all of them were wonderful to go and observe as well, and for it to be so meaning to myself and the performers and those who watched, but also for you too. That's yeah. So we'd had a discussion after the Bleach Festival about this possible concert version, but certainly there were no plans in place. And I was in a funny situation with Ady because I was looking at doing something quite crazy, and I was looking at doing a Brahms festival and playing all 4 symphonies of Johannes Brahms. And sadly, this festival is still on my to-do list and hasn't realised yet, but I certainly had gone over to Formbies in July of 2018 to have a chat with with the management there about the prospect of getting them on board as well. And during that conversation, I got to meet Elaine Cito, and I forget how I met Elaine. I think it was perhaps earlier on in that year or the previous year. I think she'd heard of the work. If we asked her, I think she'd probably say that she probably heard through the 4MBS Festival of Classics, because, as you know, song Journey to the Centre, your first work that we did with you, with Ady, was on that program, and yours and Rachel Merton's Allegro for Strings had also been included in that program. And as you've said in the previous chat, Lisa Chaney has also written for us. So we had already had a reputation of trying to include women composers into our programs, and I suspect that might have been how Elaine came to know me. Once she knew that I was coming over to 4MBS to have this chat about the Brahms Festival, we had an informal chat after that, and she said I would be interested in writing a work for you and getting it recorded. And I thought, well, that's exciting. I said, well, why don't we try and do, and funnily enough, I know somebody else that's interested in writing a work for strings who would like to also have it recorded. And Elaine kindly offered the services of the 4MBS studio. And we were able to get Richard Grayson on board to do the sound engineering for us on the day. So we set ourselves a deadline, and I think, and I know deadlines are good things for composers, and I think I suggested around from July 2018, I perhaps probably suggested to yourself and Elaine to have something ready to go by September of that year, so that I could give something to the players and we could mark up parts and any other things. But I can't quite remember, Karina, had you started in July or had you started earlier than that?
I don't think so. No, I'm a bit of I actually need the deadline to approach to actually start. So I say not. I probably would have started probably 2 months before or 6 weeks before. I'd say.
I should go back and check the emails, because I'm sure that it'd be there somewhere, but I won't embarrass either of us. But suffice to say that both of you had something ready to go in good time. September was great because as someone who's in the education industry, I had 2 weeks of holidays to be able to mark up scores, look at parts, and just make sure everything was in order, so that as we were recruiting players, and of course we started that recruiting from July, and one thing I've learned with recruiting players is that it never stops until you actually start the first rehearsal or the red light goes on for the recording. But it was good that both of you had things ready for us to go, which allowed us to, I think we had 3 rehearsals all up. And actually that weekend was a deeply moving one that we did the recording, as a colleague of ours had passed away only the day before. And this was I remember the recording was the very last activity I had, professional activity I had for the year. So it was a really good way of going out. I won't say with a bang. It wasn't, either of you hadn't written huge pieces, but that wasn't the point. But they were lovely pieces. And I think, and the environment that we were able to create on the day of the recording. So the recording was done mid-December, if I remember correctly, something like the 14th of December, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we had about 23 players, I think, all up. I have a list here, and in the following chat, I'll acknowledge each and every one of them. But it was a really good atmosphere. It was a really nice vibe, and I think the almost spontaneous applause given to yourself, Elaine, and embarrassingly to myself at the end of that session was it gets me choked up now. It was a really heartwarming day. and I think everyone really enjoyed being a part of it. And it was nice, actually, it was nice to see some members of Deep Blue who had done the Bleach Festival earlier in the year come in and be part of Ady for that performance. Who did we have, Karina?
Greta Kelly, Sophie, Sophie Collis, and Caitlin. Was Caitlin there?
Caitlin Bowen, yes, of course. Ben Richards was with her as well.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, so there was it was a nice cohort from Deep Blue, and it was lovely to see them cross over and support this second project as well. I've probably taken up most of the airtime on this one, Karina. Is there anything you want to add about? What were your experiences of the recording session itself?
I think I just want to say a shout out to Elaine for organising it, because you know, that was a really great thing for her to do, and really great advocacy, I think, for her with 4MBS Classic FM. I'm not sure they do that often, but I think she's done a really great job of advocacy around women composers with that organisation. And I was just really delighted to be included in that session. So yeah, shout out to Elaine for making that happen, and for 4MBS for providing the space and giving, you know, permission for this recording to go on to the CD.
Absolutely. Without her suggestion over a cup of coffee, the recording wouldn't have gone ahead. And certainly what we will chat about in the following discussion, we wouldn't have got to this point now.
Yeah.
And so it's worth to Elaine at 4MBS, of course, Framus themselves, and of course Richard Grayson, who did the engineering for us. Very deep-felt thank you, and of course to all the players involved as well, who I know went, who gave up their time, and certainly didn't go empty-bellied home. I remember ordering a lot of pizza on that day, but certainly. Very warm memories, I think, for all of us, including the players involved on that day. It was a really magical day, and
and thanks to Elaine for airing the work on 4MBS in March as well, in March 2019. Broadcasting on her show
Music of Our Time. Yeah. So that sort of brings the story from early 2018 to March 2019. Before we sign off, we should probably give a little bit more information about the recording itself. So the album is called ReLive, Live Works for Orchestra and Large Ensemble. The work we're discussing is Karina Bonshek's Streams of the Earth, which was performed by the Ady Ensemble. The album is being launched on the 5th of February of this year, 2021. And it's available on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Navona Records. And so thank you very much for joining Karina and myself, and we'll see you at the next discussion.